this year. I'm very excited and very excited about this virtual opportunity.
All right.
And I'm also the Perry Lecompton Middle School counselor, so I will be the counselor for 5th and 6th.
Hey, I didn't see you pop in there, Casey. Thank you. All right, so that is the bulk of our team that we are going to be using and having with us for this adventure that we're taking for our virtual experience. Thank you so much for joining us on this adventure that we're taking. It's going to be challenging, but I think also exciting at the same time. So we're excited that you guys have joined us. And tonight we're going to go through just a PowerPoint. It should take us about an hour. A couple of things that I need to tell you up front. First thing I'm going to ask you to do is, if you would please just type your name and your student's name. If you have multiple students, you can go ahead and list them all. I know we have some families that have multiple students. So if you would just put that in the chat box. That way we have a record of who actually was in attendance for our meeting tonight. And then also, if you have any questions while I am presenting, you can also throw those in the chat box. Mr. Elliott or Mrs. Mullen will be answering those questions for you as we go through tonight, and hopefully we'll have all of the questions answered by the end of our time. And I will have some time at the very end if we want to. I'll open it up for questions as well. So I am going to share my screen with you, and you should be seeing here pretty quick like I can get it to go here, my screen with my PowerPoint presentation. Oops, sorry, got a window there. So we're just going to be talking a little bit about our experience and our platform and just some things that we're going to be doing this year for virtual school. We talked as a team that we thought it would be best to give you little spoonfuls at a time. There's a lot of information that you're going to need to know to actually proceed with doing virtual school with your students. So we wanted to start with just some very general information tonight, and then I'm going to be sending you lots of emails and giving you lots more information over the next week or so to get you started, get your students started in the platform, get you some training in PowerSchool Learn, which is another platform we're going to be using kind of in coherence with our virtual school platform. And so we're just going to try to give you a little bit tonight. So I know you may come out of this meeting with a few more questions, but just know that you're going to be getting a lot more information over the next week or so. So you just be looking for emails from me, ppowers@usd343.org. So you'll be getting lots of those from me. And you'll start getting some things from Florida Virtual School as well. So just know that we're giving you a little bit at a time and not a whole bucket full of information, because I think that might be a little too much. So tonight we're going to start with just some calendar information. We are looking at the first semester, kind of taking this a semester at a time. And so hoping that this Corona situation maybe will be resolved by the end of the semester, but we don't know where we're at with that. So, but we're looking at this for the first semester. So it will run with the same calendar that USD 343 has. So just follow that calendar for your days off of school. And we did have some questions this morning about, well, will we have Wednesdays off? And yes, you would have Wednesdays off if it is a yellow time, just like the other students will have Wednesdays off. If we have a snow day during this first semester, then you would also have that. You can take that day off. But what's great about virtual school is it's a very flexible environment for you. So if you want to get caught up or you want to work ahead, you know, you can do that on your days off from school as well. So it's really kind of your discretion whether you're going to take those days off, but just know that we will not expect your student to be logged in to the Florida Virtual School platform on those calendar days off of school. So just to kind of follow the same USD 343 calendar. All right. For the upcoming weeks for virtual school, this week, obviously, we're doing our parent orientation, and then you should have received some emails based on your grade level for your students. I'm going to be conducting some meet and greets with the students. We're going to be doing some scavenger hunts together. And so I did put some information in there about what they need to be doing to get a little prepared for those scavenger hunts. I think our meet and greets will go a little bit smoother if they kind of have an idea of what they're going to be looking for when they are doing the scavenger hunt, so no one gets frustrated or upset that they can't find an item. So you might visit with them a little bit about the list of 10 items that we're looking for during our scavenger hunt. Maybe have those at least available for them. Some of them are things that, you know, pictures and things that they might want to have available, and you might need to help them find those things. So just know that, take a look at that email, maybe not wait until the actual meet and greet time, because we don't want any students to get frustrated. So that can be something they can work on over the next few days before their meet and greet. They can be looking for those items. Then the next week, I'm going to be introducing you to the virtual school platform, which we'll talk about here in just a little bit. And then also I'm going to be doing some Power School Learn training with you. I'd like to use this as an additional platform, mostly for communication, but also there may be some opportunities for us to do some uploading of documents and maybe some other additional extracurricular things that I can offer and suggest for you to do during your virtual school experience that I can also put into Power School Learn. So there will actually be two different platforms that you'll be using, the Florida Virtual School platform, and also then I'm going to do some training for Power School. So we'll talk about how to get logged in, how to use it. Power School Learn actually is really intuitive. It's a really easy system to use. Mrs. Moland has been doing all the training on that. So if I can't answer a question and get back to you, she will be able to help me with that. So we'll do that next week as well. So just to kind of get you started on what the state is requiring of your student and of us as a district, they are asking that your student spend 360 minutes each scheduled school day doing their learning. So that learning can look like lots of different things. So it could be the Florida Virtual School. It could also be some of the extracurricular activities or break activities that I'm suggesting and providing to you as well. So we are not expecting as a district for your child to sit on an iPad for 6 hours straight every single day. So please don't please don't think that that's what we're hoping your child is doing, because that's not what we're expecting. I will tell you that the program, the Florida Virtual School program, is a rigorous curriculum, and it's going to fill their day. And this 360 minutes probably won't be hard to meet with what they're going to be working on with the Florida Virtual School. But I also don't want them sitting on an iPad all day, every day. So please make sure that you are thinking about those breaks. I'm going to be sending out some sample schedules to you to kind of help you, you know, maneuver what your day may look like and schedule what your day could look like for each grade level. Of course, what a day might look like for a second grader will look a little different than what it would look like for a sixth grader. So I'll send those out based on grade level as well. Also, a requirement that the state is asking us to do is a form that we need to have you sign off on and submit to us every week. And I'm going to ask that that's submitted to us every Monday morning to me by 8 o'clock a.m. for the previous week, just so that I can verify that your student was indeed on the scheduled school days doing their 360 minutes. Let me show you what that form kind of looks like. So this is just a sample form of what that remote learning activity form is going to look like. This is a fillable form. So what's nice is these arrows here are actually drop down menus that give you the option to fill in how much time you spent doing that activity. Now, for each of these, we're going to talk about your different course selections for each grade level. I want you to know that I will always populate for you. When I send these out each week, I'll send them to you. They will always be populated for what you did with Florida Virtual School. And then you can see that there's going to be an other category as well. I will be putting some suggestions in here for you that you can do, or you can do your own your own activities. But I do want you to change, like if you, let's say for ELA, I put in here spelling practice for kindergartners. They're writing or they're, you know, making their letter practice with, you know, shaving cream on the kitchen table. Let's say that's my other activity for their other practice for the week, okay? Maybe you didn't have shaving cream, so you took them outside and you did it with sidewalk chalk instead. So you would just put, you know, letter practice sidewalk chalk. Then I know that you did that instead of the shaving cream. So just know that I'll be making some suggestions, and this will be the place that I will do that on. But if you want to use those activities, you can. Maybe you won't have time. Maybe you'll have your 360 minutes and you won't need to do these extra activities. That's going to be whatever your schedule looks like at home. Also down here, I wanted to point out that there is some supports that we have in place. Some of your students might be receiving services from special education. So you would also be that would also contribute to your 360 minutes. So those minutes with your special education teacher would not be in addition to your 360 minutes. That's all going to be included together. Maybe your student would like a visit with Mrs. Paramore. Maybe they'd like to have a counselor visit. You could include that in your 360 minutes also. So all of that can be included in your 360 minutes. It just needs to be documented so that we can tell what you did for your 360 minutes. And remember, this is all a state requirement for us. We have to keep these on file so that we can show the state that we are indeed having you virtual school and you are a part of our district, okay? So the next slide is a little bit about Florida Virtual School. Just in my brief time that I have spent learning about Florida Virtual School and spending some time on their platform, I'm very impressed with what they have to offer. It's a very rigorous curriculum, like I had said before. I think it's going to be really easy to get 360 minutes per day with that curriculum. I'm pretty impressed with what they have to offer. It's very engaging. It's very interactive with the students. It's very, it looks like it's a lot of fun. I think as a student, they'll be having a lot of fun with this platform. They have been doing this for 23 years, so they are one of the best in the industry when it comes to teaching online. So I think students will be having a good experience with Florida Virtual School. Also wanted to mention, I know there might be some of you thinking, well, what about our state standards? What about Kansas state standards? We're doing Florida Virtual School. Well, what's really great about that is Florida Virtual School, everything that they have instruction-wise is tied to Common Core standards and national science standards. So both of those are tied right back to Kansas state standards. So that will be perfect for us because we will be meeting all of those Kansas state standards through this virtual school platform. So I was gonna let Mr. Elliott maybe visit a little bit more, share with us some of the other ideas that he has and reasons why they chose this platform specifically.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, as we went through and looked at some different options available for our parents, we looked at platforms such as Odysseyware. We looked at Edgenuity, had a new elementary-based program. But when it came down to what we felt was best for our elementary students and being really geared towards some of our lower level elementary, we felt the graphics, the interaction, the manipulations that you'll be able to do within the screen, it would be most beneficial to our students, especially those younger students. I will tell you, as we looked at all the different platforms, and I think I've said this a few times on some of the videos, that when you get into virtual school, understand, especially those lower levels, the kindergarten, first grade, second grade, there's going to be a high expectation for parent involvement on that. That's just the way that virtual school is going to be. The parent's going to have to be there, be the coach. So you need to be aware of that going in. It's not something that you can just set your kindergartner down, turn on the iPad, and walk away. You're going to have to be there and be really engaged. Other things that we are going to do with this, this platform we purchased for as a site license. And a site license essentially means that all of our teachers, K through 6, will have access to these same courses. So if we get into a situation where we have to go into that red phase, in other words, where all of our teachers in the classroom have to connect with our students at home, the ones that are currently assigned to the brick and mortar building, they would be able to use these same assignments that you are going to be doing through the virtual school. So it is going to be very closely aligned. That is, if the teachers choose to do that. So we are expecting this to be used readily, not just by you, but probably by our teachers in the event that we have to do some different type of instruction ourselves. While we're on this topic too, I did have a question come up a week ago from a parent talking about what all options are available. And again, when we got our survey results back on what parents were wanting, they wanted the opportunity to keep their child home if they could, because they were concerned about safety and exposure. Maybe they had some children who are at higher risk to get coronavirus, and we understood that. So this program will let you work. You have to get the 360 minutes a day, but it may be 1 or 2 hours in the morning, and then mom or dad has to go to work. Maybe mom or dad then comes home later in the evening, and then you can get the rest of your time in. This is a flexible type of format. You still have to meet the requirements, but it's going to give you some flexibility. Some of the schools in our area are simply approaching this remote learning by saying, if you want to stay home full time, you can. You just have to Zoom in the exact same time that our teachers are giving the lecture and the lessons, and that's how you're going to get the instruction. That's going to be kind of tough, I know, for some of you. So that's another reason, again, why we've done this here. But going back to the options, I would tell you that I told our parent that you don't have to choose virtual school. You don't have to choose brick and mortar. Another option out there for some of you is homeschooling. And again, I'm not going to promote that because, again, we want all of you to be Perry Lecompton students. We think we have a lot of great things to offer. But that is something that is an option. If this doesn't work for you, and our regular school, the yellow phase and the green and the red doesn't work for you, you can also homeschool. You have to register through the Department of Education for that. Another option too, there are a lot of very well-established virtual schools out there that you can choose from. So that's something for you to think about as well. K-12, I believe, which is run by the Spring Hill District, is something we've had a couple parents choose. We are not going to be mad at you if you do that. I just want to let you know that. And if you decide, and whenever it is, to come back to USD 343, we're going to welcome you with open arms. But you have to do what's best for you and your children right now. And that's certainly what we want, is what's going to be the best for you. So thank you, Pam.
Thank you. So I just wanted to give you a brief overview of the course selection that your students are going to have an option to choose here. So we are going to, well, they're going to have 5 main courses that I am going to assign to them. And these are their required courses. And as you can see, these follow along with the grade card that we have at Perry Lecompton. It's really important, and we thought as a team that we made sure that, like Mr. Elliott was saying, if your student decides to come back into the brick and mortar building, that they have a very similar structure to what the students in our buildings are getting. So we are going to design their course to look very similar to that. They will have an option for specials and electives. So as you can see see K4 and 5-6 will have English language arts, math, social studies, science, and PE. We thought this PE component was really important for everyone to still get that, because obviously that is a state standard, and we want to be sure that everyone at this age level is getting that as a required course. So I did break this out. I wanted to make sure those of you that have 5th and 6th grade students, you will see on their grade card when I put in grades, it's going to be a little bit tricky. The English language arts is a course by itself in the Florida Virtual School, but they will have 2 grades that I split that out into for their grade card, which will be reading and then language arts. And there's a way that I'll be able to do that within the course structure. I'll be able to separate those out. But I wanted to just make sure that you kind of understood that this course will actually produce 2 different grades on their grade card. And if you ever have any questions about that, just let me know. Then they will get to choose one other course for their 6th required course, and they're going to be able to choose art or technology. Now, I know this morning with our meeting this morning, we had a couple of parents asking, what do the syllabus look like for these? And I have not seen those yet. So I will not be able to tell you what the specific subjects that will be covered or what they will be doing in each of these courses, but I have put in a request to get maybe a little bit more details on what these courses will be covering so that students can make an educated choice here. So I need your students to be thinking about which of these they want to choose though, because I will have to make a decision and put that course in for them. So they will need to decide for the semester which one of these they want to do, art or technology. So you can just email me if your student knows, oh yeah, no, I'm not going to do technology no matter what that class looks like. I'm going to do art for sure. Then you can just email me and say, hey, my student wants art, or vice versa. If there's no way they're going to do art, I would choose technology, but you can just email me. If you want more information about what they look like, then let me know and I can get you more information. Okay. Also coming at the end of the week will be a parent guide. This is a pretty large document, and initially I was going to show you some of it tonight, but it is a lot of information at one time. So as we talked before, trying to give you a little bit of information in spoonfuls here, but I do want to say that there are a couple of things I'm going to talk about here down here in the materials section that I do want to point out that we're going to discuss. But when you get this parent guide, what I'd like for you to do is to read through it. And yes, it is long and there's a lot of information in there, but I think it might be more beneficial if you have a chance to look at the document and read through it. And then we have a Zoom meeting with questions and answers where I might have a short presentation at the beginning with what's in the document, and then we can have a Q&A with maybe, oh, I didn't understand this part. What does this part mean? You know, that type of thing. I just think that might be a little bit more effective use of our time to do it that way, just because there's a lot of information in it. So I will be sending that at the end of this week, and then I will be sending you an email to set up for a Zoom, another kind of Zoom meeting like what we're having, but it'll be more of a question answer kind of open session time for us to talk about what's in this parent guide and see what we have questions about. One of the things I did want to mention that you're going to see in there that might be something that you're kind of shocked by is the very first thing on the materials list is they ask you to have a printer. Now, some families might have a printer and some families may not. If you have a printer, it will come in handy for you, especially if your student is a primary grade level student, like K2, even 3rd grade. As the students get a little bit older, it's not as necessary, but there are some things to print even when they're a little older. So if you have access to a printer or you'd like to get a printer, what they will be doing is actually printing off some worksheets, and they are PDFs that you'll print off, and then they'll do the work on those worksheets, and then you take a snapshot of it, and then you would load them back into the system. Now, that's a little tricky with our iPads, because if the iPad is the only device that you have at home, sometimes they don't talk to printers very easily. Also, it's kind of tricky because some parents may not have printers and they may not want to go out and purchase a printer. So after the team and I talked about some ideas that we would have for this, since they do have iPads and iPads work well with a stylus pen, we thought maybe another option for this would be you could purchase a stylus pen for your student. They would still have the same feel of holding a pencil in their hand, you know, doing the work with that same grip that they're working on with their hand, and being able, a lot of this is, you know, writing words, forming letters, that type of thing that they're wanting them to practice. And so they could still have that feeling, but they would just be using that, and they could take just a screenshot of the PDF, work on it on their iPad, and then upload it back into the system. So I'm going to be offering some training on how to do that process and how we can make that work, because I don't want you to have to go out and buy a printer. And I actually think that this method might be a little bit easier with the iPad situation. So, but if you want to print things off for your students and you want them to just use pencil, paper, then feel free to do that and take the photo and then send it back through the system that way as well. Mr. Elliott, Mrs. Mullen, did I cover that pretty well? Can you think of anything else I need to use? Okay, I just wanted to make sure I did that one. The other thing that they put on there is a phone and a scanner. What's really great about the iPad is it will do what you need a phone or a scanner to do. So please don't go out and buy your kindergartner a phone. They probably don't need it. Well, I don't know, maybe it's entertaining for them, but they won't need it for Florida Virtual School, because they'll have an iPad that will do what you need a phone or a scanner to do. So just keep in mind the iPad will take pictures. You can if you Google a little bit, the notes on your iPad will also become a scanner. So there's also a scanner, different things you can do with it. So if you have trouble doing any of that, just let me know and I can give you some training on that as well. The last thing is an external drive. And Mrs. Mullen, you can kind of correct me if I'm wrong here, but I really don't think that they'll need an external drive because they'll have Google Drive on their iPads, and I just think that that would be a fine place for them to store anything that they think they'll need to store. I don't really know that they'll need an external drive.
I would agree. And with the external drive, trying to find one that will work with the iPads might be a little bit tricky. But I think since they would have access to their school Google Drive and there's a lot of storage there, that they should be fine.
Okay. So we will use your Google Drive then as your external drive. External, it's cloud, you know, but it is external from your actual iPad, a place to store anything that you need to store. Okay, so I wanted to point those out because I didn't want parents to panic about those items that are on the materials list and think you need to go out and purchase those items. I want you to know we have some things in place and some workarounds already for those. Okay. All right, you're probably wondering about our kind of daily expectations. So these are just the daily things that I would like for the students to be doing. Now, like Mr. Elliott said, this is a flexible environment for you while you are at home with your student doing the virtual school. So number one is really just one of those situations where this is what I just like to know who is, you know, getting started and getting things going first thing in the morning. If this is not what your day is going to look like, if you are not going to be starting your morning at 8 o'clock and ending it at 3:15, the way a normal school day would look like, that is completely fine. That's exactly what this is set up to help you do. I just wanted to have some expectations, especially maybe for those of you that might be going to work and leaving your 6th grader at home, to do his work or her work on their own, just something that you could give them to maybe set a good schedule. Or if you want to have a good schedule that you're looking for, this might be something that you could think about. But like I said, if it's not going to work for your family and you're going to work outside the normal school hours, then please just let me know, because this first part here, you don't need me checking in with you at 9 o'clock to see why you're not logged, why your student's not logged in and working on Florida Virtual School if you aren't starting your day then. So if you would just send me a quick email and let me know if your schedule isn't going to look like the normal school day. That's all I need to know. And then maybe you can just tell me, hey, we're going to be working from 2 o'clock to 8 o'clock every day in the, afternoon, evening. That's when I get off work. That's when it's going to work best for us. So I'll just know, little Bobby, I need to check in at 2 o'clock, make sure he's getting started each day. So I just need to kind of know if this is not going to be your normal check-in time. So no problem from me, just need to know if it's going to be a little different than that. Just know that I do expect when it's a school day that they are working and staying on pace with their lessons. I will be offering what I call public Zoom office hours, and the student or parent can come in and ask questions as needed. Just know that that is a public time, so you can jump on and jump off. Other people might be on. You might have to wait for just a minute. I might bring other people in at the same time. You might have the same question, that type of thing. So just know that there could be multiple people on at the same time during this time. But if you need a private Zoom with just a one-on-one session, then you can just email me and say, hey, I think we need to set up a private Zoom and we can arrange another time for that. Okay. And I usually like to set those up outside of my office hours between our normal school day. But if for some reason that's not going to work for your family, just let me know and we can work something else out. Okay, that's kind of this part down here. You can email me. We also will be setting up this messaging via PowerSchool also. So just know that we'll have that option as well. It looks a lot like email. It'll be very intuitive once you guys get in there and get some training. You will see that it's basically the same thing. Whoops, not quite done. And then also down here, if you happen to message or request something from me after school hours that we haven't already talked about or had a set up time for, just know that I will respond to that, and it will be handled before my office hours the next day. So just know that it's not a 24/7 time that I'll be responding. So let's say you send me an email at 7 o'clock in the evening, it will be the next morning that I'll respond to your message and get that handled. Okay? So the next slide just basically kind of tells you how I will respond to all of that. I'll be taking roll. I'll check in with students at 9 if they're not logged on and going. I will maintain my office hours. I'll be telling you when those are here in just a second. I do want to point out there are some parts of our content that I may not be able to answer questions, art being one of those. I'm not an artist. Mrs. Mullen can attest that my art project that we did at the beginning of the year with our staff, it turned out all right, but it wasn't great. Luckily, I had some help. We worked as teams on that, and I had some help. So anyway, I will refer questions about content that I can't answer to other teachers. So that response time may take a little longer. So just know that that may not be as quickly as I would normally respond if I have to send that question out to another teacher, and the other teacher may respond back to you instead of me. So just be, or your student, be aware of that. And then this talks about that I will respond back no later than office hours the next day. And then I will be updating grades in PowerSchool every 2 weeks. We don't have any situation with eligibility because none of our students are playing sports because of their age, so they're K through 6. So I will just update grades every 2 weeks. Okay, so those are my expectations. So let's just talk a little bit about communication. Eventually, once we are all trained on PowerSchool, my goal is to communicate with everyone through PowerSchool. I will post things on our pages there to make announcements, that I will be messaging people through there. That really, I want to be kind of our main source of communication. Now, we need to all get trained. We need to all get familiar with that system. So for now, I'm going to be emailing parents. So just know that really be watching for emails from me and emails from Florida Virtual School. I know I was talking to a parent earlier today, we get those swiping delete fingers going, and sometimes you accidentally delete something and you're like, whoops, I needed that. So just really, really watch for my email and Florida Virtual School over the next few weeks so we don't accidentally delete any of those. Also, we have created a tab under schools on the website that's called K6 Virtual School, and I will also be putting the really important things on that tab. So this video, I will have a video of this meeting. I'm recording this meeting right now. That would be an example of what I would post there. I won't necessarily put messages or that type of thing on there. I might just important announcements and videos and things like that. Okay. Here are my office hours. So this is just open office hours. You can pop in whenever you need. I will be sending out a link to that. It's just going to be the same Zoom link every single day. It's just a reoccurring scheduled link that I'll have every Monday through Thursday from 10 o'clock to 11:30. So you'll get that before Monday. You can always contact me directly at my email. I've been already communicating with a number of parents yesterday and today. So it's been working really well. So just feel free to do that. Like I said before, I can private Zoom with you if that works. If you need to have that, something that's a little bit more private, you have some more questions or maybe some content that you need work with, your student needs work with, we can do that. Also, if for some reason we do need to set up a time to talk on the phone, I can make that work as well. So just send me a quick email, we can figure out a time, and then I will give you a call. And then, of course, that additional help from other content areas. Okay, so that's the communication that we're going to be working through. This slide, I'm going to just say a couple things, and then I'm going to let Mr. Elliott talk just a little bit about the transfer policy. One of the things that I wanted to say, and I know that in the classroom, teachers are creatures of habit, and that consistency is the best policy, whether you're, you know, in the classroom, at home. I know that sometimes when you're in the home environment, I've had a lot of friends who have homeschooled their kids, and they said that they still tried to keep to a regular schedule. So I would highly recommend that you keep your kids on a really regular schedule, whether that be a daily schedule, weekly schedule, both of those things. I know that it will just make your life a whole lot easier if they're on a regular schedule, and it will make it a lot smoother, and then they will just be ready to learn every day and know what to expect. So that's my plug for consistency is the best policy. So like I said, I've had a lot of friends. I was in private school for a number of years, and so I've had a lot of friends homeschool their kids, and that was what they needed to do to make it work. So I am going to let Mr. Elliott talk a little bit about students coming out of the virtual school into brick and mortar and so forth. So Mr. Elliott, I'll let you take it.
All right. Yes, as I mentioned earlier, we have this program set up now in our elementary schools. So when we initially started, we said you had to commit at the beginning of the year to go the full semester. And we still want to see you stay in this as long as you can, but now because we've got this set up this way, if you find out in a week or 2 weeks, this just isn't working and you want to get back into the brick and mortar, back into the middle school, back into Perry Elementary or Lecompton Elementary, we can allow you to do that. What we don't want you to do is feel like you can bounce back and forth. And as Pam mentioned here, this is, it's like a different school. It would be no different than if we had a family moving into our school district from Jeff West or Oskaloosa or Lawrence. Although the grade levels will be the same in those other school buildings, and they should be following Common Core standards or Kansas standards, they may not be covering exactly the same way as you are in Florida Virtual as when they come back into the classroom in Mrs. Levi Mill's 5th grade room, if that makes sense. So you need to be aware of that. If you have more questions on that and you're thinking about wanting to go back into the middle school or the elementary buildings, you need to contact those principals as soon as possible to let them know. But again, let's say if we're fortunate and by miracle next month we have a vaccine and everything looks great and we're going to keep on crossing our fingers on that one. But you say, hey, I feel comfortable and I'm ready to get back in. So we can make that happen. Other thing I'd ask you to do is be patient with us on this. This is completely new for us as well. So as we're working our way through this, I know you are as well. So we are going to look to evaluate this. So maybe after we get 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 months in, if you have some feedback for us, we'd really appreciate it. We will look at this type of program to see if this is something maybe we want to continue to add not only next year, the years to come. I know a lot of school districts have a virtual school option. Maybe that's something that we want to do. So maybe that's one of the positives coming out of this coronavirus situation. It's going to have us look a little bit different at some different options for parents. So that's kind of what I have on the transfer policy and how we got things set up for that.
Thank you. All right, just a couple more things. Mr. Elliott shared with me yesterday a story that got me pretty inspired. And then I found this quote, one of my favorite authors. And I thought, you know, this is a pretty good quote for us to hear, because you didn't have to try virtual school. Maybe you felt like you had to because of what Mr. Elliott was saying with a medical condition or concern for safety. And like I said this morning, I want to assure you, and Ms. Moland and Mrs. Paramore and Mrs. Webb and Mr. Lamb, they can jump in and back me up on this. I can assure you that they are working diligently to keep students safe in the buildings, and they have planned and they have worked, and I mean, they have done an amazing job to do what they can to keep students safe in our buildings. So please know that if you do decide to send your students back to school, they are going to be safe, because you have a great team in those buildings and they are doing a great job. But I admire those of you that have decided to try this, because you didn't really have to try this. And sometimes people only do things because they have to. And so I think that it's a great challenge for us, but also an exciting challenge. So Mr. Elliott shared this story with me yesterday that I thought was an interesting and very appropriate story about being in a thunderstorm and the lights go out, right? And you're laying in bed, and he equated this to our journey that we're taking with this virtual school. And he said, you don't just jump out of bed and run to go find the flashlight. And I thought, no, because you're going to get hurt. You're going to trip over something. You're going to stub your toe. You're going to not really find your way. So you take your time, you go really slow. You maybe bump into a few things, but you kind of feel around and maneuver your way. And yeah, you might bump into the couch, or you might bump into a cabinet, but you're not going fast. You're going kind of slow. And so you're taking your time, and then you finally find the flashlight. And I told Mr. Elliott this morning, that's the best aha moment that I could think of, because when you finally find that flashlight and you turn it on, you're like, yes, finally there will be light in my house, you know, in the dark thunderstorm when everyone is scared. So I thought that's a great way to equate our trip that we're going to be taking with this virtual school, because there are going to be bumps along the way. We are kind of doing this in the dark because we haven't experienced Florida virtual school before. And I know that there are going to be many lights at the end of the tunnel, and many aha moments, and many, I found the flashlight, I finally figured it out. So I've already experienced some of those myself. So I know that you as families will experience that as well. So I'm excited about this journey. I really hope that you guys are excited too. I know that you have a ton of questions, but I hope that we can get those answered over the next few weeks, and then we can kick our platform off, and that'll start next week. You'll start getting your virtual school platform going next week, and hopefully you'll have enough information that you can get your students good and started with that. So we will open it up for any questions. I don't know how the question chat box is going, Mrs. Mullen. Things are going okay?
Things are going very well. They've been very quiet.
Oh, they're quiet. Okay.
Yeah.
We had lots of questions this morning, so maybe I'm doing a better job of answering all the questions, Mr. Elliott. Right? Does anyone have any questions that they want to just throw out to the group?
I say really quick, one question that did come up just here a few seconds ago in the chat box was, can our student log in more than 360 minutes, especially if they're struggling with specific content?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah, I would say the 360 is the state minimum requirement. So if your student is struggling with something, I'm sure Ms. Powers could also probably help you with some supplemental type activities that might help a bit more.
Yes, and also any of the Zoom time that we spend together going over content, reviewing things, me helping your student, that can attribute to your 360 minutes as well. Good question. Thank you, Mrs. Mullen. Any other questions? Mr. Elliott, Mrs. Mullen, can you think of any other things that I've missed that I need to add? Mr. Lamb, do you have anything you want to add?
I can't think of anything. I think, again, you've done a good job of covering where
Okay.
we're at.
Okay.
And again, I would point out that we are, we had a question earlier, I think it maybe came in by email, of, you know, why can't we start, you know, today on this? And I think it's important to note that we're moving as fast as we can on this based on the information that we're getting from Florida Virtual School. We were the first school to sign up with the Greenbush Service Center to do this. So we're actually ahead of many of the districts that are in this Northeast Kansas area. In fact, we were the first one to go with them. So our training is ahead of them, but it is taking time. As you can imagine, the need for online learning platforms, not only in our area, in our state, across the country, is very high. So they have a very large demand that they're trying to meet right now. When I say they, I mean Florida Virtual School. So that's why it's taking us a little bit longer to get this set up than normal. But we are getting there. And as Pam said, we're about ready to grab the first flashlight on this thunderstorm as soon as we get you set up and going next week. So I've seen a couple more questions come in. Aaron, did you grab those yet? Okay.
All right, so just a couple quick reminders. If you would just make sure that you talk to your students about those 2 elective choices. And if you want more information about those, let me know. And then also just make sure you know for sure when your meet and greet is, your grade level meet and greet is for your student. And if you don't have that information, send me a quick email and I'll get that out to you. Okay, and if you're not sure where my email is, it is right here. It's really easy, ppowers@usd343.org.